So it's good to see you all this morning. Like I said, I'm going to do a little overview of what we'll go over today. So as you know, as you've heard probably since you're here, the NASDA Foundation and the Northeast Regional Food Business Center have launched our Business Builder application. And so we want to give you all a little bit more information about the Northeast Regional Food Business Center, who we've got here from the leadership team, some basics of the Business Builder Subaward program, and then frequently asked questions. We've had great questions already. We had one information session held last week, so we've got some FAQs to go over, and then we're going to have an open Q&A forum. So as we go through this, know that this session will be recorded and will be made available online afterwards. And feel free to ask questions in the chat. We will give you all an opportunity to come off mic and ask questions during that Q&A forum. But if you put questions in the chat right now, we will go through from top to bottom and get to them as fast as possible through the Q&A. So without further ado, let's get this session started. I want to give an opportunity to introduce the leadership team. So like I said, our comms person is out today, but my name is Jade Umberger. I am grants manager at NASDA Foundation, working on the Regional Food Business Center. My day-to-day is all things about this grant, so I'm excited to talk to you about it. And I'm calling in from Pittsburgh. I will turn it over to Chris.
Good morning, everyone. Chris Jones. I'm the Senior Director of the NASDA Foundation. So in addition to this program, we have a few other grants that we work on, and we have a full team of 5 for the NASDA Foundation, supporting all of the work across the country. We do work with all the state departments of agriculture with that, and we work to support their efforts. And our focus is on education, research, and outreach. So this is a great program. We're excited to be able to work alongside you to bring this to fruition. So with that, Jade, I'll turn it back to you.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. I think we have Tiffany on here. Do you want to introduce yourself? Maybe she stepped away. We just so that everyone knows, we have our grant system coordinator on here. So if you have any technical questions about the application itself, she's here to answer any of those. So Tiffany Ramos is here.
Hi, Jade.
Do we have anyone else from the core team that wants to say hey?
And Jade, can y'all hear me?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, y'all. I had too many tabs open and I was like looking for this one.
Been there.
Yeah. So hey everyone, good morning. My name is Tiffany Ramos. I'm from Grant Partners. So we worked closely with the NASDA Foundation to build out this site as well as the application Influx, which is the portal that you go on and apply. So if at any point during this call or after this call, if you guys have any technical questions about completing the application, whether it's going through the eligibility or registration or the application itself, uploading documents, things of that nature, I will be here to troubleshoot those with you. Yeah, so I'm just here if you guys need anything.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Sure.
Anyone else from the core team? I don't know if we had anyone join, but we do also have other folks that are helping on this grant. That there are a lot of people behind the scenes. Some of those include NASDA Foundation. So Chris and I from NASDA Foundation. Buffalo Go Green is our partner in Buffalo, does a lot of outreach for us. And then we've got Cornell University's Center for Regional Economic Advancement. I'll touch on the Community Hub, the center's Community Hub. They run that. And then we have 2 departments of ag. It's New York State Department of Ag and Markets and Maine Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. Those 5 organizations make up our core team that creates a lot of these grants, but we also have community advisors and other folks that we get input from as well. The center, our Northeast Center is one of 12, so you can see the map here. We are the green in the Northeast, but there are 12 other centers doing similar work throughout. And we share 2 states with the Appalachian Center. So if you're calling in from Pittsburgh or Maryland, you might want to check your county to make sure that you're in our region. But anyone that that sells product that has interactions with the Northeast is available. Someone isn't able to see my screen. Are other folks available to see my screen or able to see my screen? Just thumbs up. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that, Christy. So if you impact the Northeast food system, you are eligible for this grant. Other states that are included in the Northeast are DC, Delaware, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. The center objectives are to coordinate a regional network of Northeast food system partners and connect with other centers nationwide to increase the amount and range of regionally grown products and food businesses by providing technical assistance and financial support, to increase the capacity of regional supply chains to identify, procure, aggregate, market, and distribute products to major Northeast markets, and then to build sustainability into center activities to ensure continued growth and resiliency. Those are our objectives. The Business Builder program is just one of the programs that we have within the center to get to these objectives. But it's a very important one. The timeline for these applications are February 24th, the applications have opened. March 3rd through 27th are informational sessions. You're at one right now. Fabulous. April 7th is when applications close. That's at 5 p.m. Applications close on April 7th at 5 p.m. July, we anticipate the announcement of subawards, and then in August, we anticipate projects able to commence. So that's the timeline of our applications and award. Funding tracks, and you might have seen this online or in the RFA if you've taken a peek, but we have 3 funding tracks for this first round of Business Builder subawards. Track 1 is special purpose equipment, and so that's purchase of equipment for post-harvest activities from processing to market. So any special purpose equipment, processing equipment, distribution equipment, and we'll get into some allowable examples in a couple slides. But this track 1 is all about equipment and also any associated technical assistance or maintenance. So if you have some equipment that's an upgrade in food safety for you, but you need some training, someone to come in and train your staff on this new equipment, that technical assistance, that person that comes in and trains your staff, is eligible under this track 1. And Jenna, I'll get to you real quick, just so that everyone's aware, you can only apply to one track at a time. So track 1, special purpose equipment, and then any technical assistance or maintenance that's associated. This track the amount is anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000. And farm and food businesses, including aquaculture and wild-caught fisheries, are with an annual revenue of $350,000 or less. That's our center's definition of small business, small business is able to apply. So track 1, special purpose equipment and associated technical assistance, funding anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000, and then farm and food businesses with $350,000 or less in annual revenue are invited to apply. That is gross profit. Track 2 is all about business development. So financial acumen, industry know-how, things that will help you be a better business owner. Any sort of technical assistance or training is allowed here for any post-harvest activities. And I'll keep saying post-harvest, and I'll get into that in a couple slides. but post-harvest activities only. This track 2 business development is anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000, and also same eligibility. So small businesses, businesses with 350,000 or less in annual revenue. The third track is the only one open to farm and food businesses up to mid-size. That's our definition. The center's definition of mid-size is 1 million or less in annual revenue. So this one is sort of for bigger projects. Small businesses can also apply. But this is for product and market expansion. For businesses that have a good thing going, but they want to create a new product, get into a new market. This assists businesses in expansion and wider distribution. So this can be both special purpose equipment and business technical assistance or training. So this is like for larger projects, like I said, so that's reflected in the amount available. That's $50,000 to $100,000. So in summation, track 1 is equipment. It is like a mid-size grant, $25,000 to $50,000. Track 2 is business development, any sort of business technical assistance or training. That's a smaller grant from $15,000 to $25,000. And then track 3 is our largest grant, and that's for product and market expansion, $50,000 to $100,000. And that's the only one that farm and food businesses with 1 million or less are eligible. That is an overview of what we've got going on, and we can get into that further if folks have questions. Things that are not allowable for funding are any purchase of land, buildings, or real estate. Rental of all of these things is allowable. Construction, demolition, or major rehabilitation of any building, structure, or land. We like to say any ground disturbing activities. So anything that would make you move grass, move dirt, we cannot fund. General purpose or non-specialized equipment like office furnishing, motor vehicles, including tractors, trucks, or trailers, that all is not allowable. So things that you can use across the program, we want to make sure that this is for this specific project for post-harvest only. And then any production related costs such as seeds, fertilizer, or other production inputs. So we can't fund a shovel, we can't fund a tractor, we can't fund anything before the carrot is picked from the ground, the tomatoes taken from the vine, before cattle hooves hit the trailer, before fish is on the landing dock. Anything after that, anything that is further processing, storage, distribution, or marketing, we can fund. So hopefully that's clear. We do have some resources in addition to this informational session to help you apply. You're in the right place. You are at the informational session, but we also have, if you want to watch more video, we have an application launch webinar recording on our website. And then resources that we have that have to do with the application are obviously the request for application. That is the core information that you need to know in order to apply. So that includes links for the USDA AMS Regional Food Business Center Program terms and conditions, as well as the overarching USDA AMS terms and conditions for that program. And then we have our scoring rubric too. It's important to know how external reviewers will be looking at your application. So that's a good thing to reference. We also have an application checklist that includes information about how to obtain a unique entity identifier. This is required for application, either your number or proving that you're in the process. This is to track funding and just ensure that there's no quote double dipping from other federal programs. So this is basically like a business's social security number to make sure that your business is tracked. And this grant funding is tracked. We also have frequently asked questions on the website. Those include ones from our past information sessions, and if there are any questions that we don't get to today, those will be on the frequently asked questions website. I mentioned earlier the community hub. Our technical assistance directory is on that. And so if you are needing assistance from technical assistance providers, you can find what you need on that website. It's basically a phone book for those TAPs. Any other questions? If you're going through this and you're not finding your answer, feel free to send an email to northeastrfbc@nasda.org. Or, well, and you should subscribe to our Regional Food Business Center newsletter to get any up-to-date news about the center. And like I said, my dog's got a box. So if you're hearing any noise in the background, she's keeping herself company. So we're gonna move on to our Q&A. We have a couple Q&A slides that are things that we've received in the past informational sessions, and then we'll open it up to the group. So what are the differences between the three funding tracks? The first, track 1, is special equipment only. This is for small businesses with a revenue of 350,000 or less, and the awards are 25,000 to 50,000. Track 2 is business development. This is small businesses as well, from 15,000 to 25,000 per award. And then track 3 is that larger grant for product and market expansion, 50,000 to 100,000 per award, and mid-sized businesses are also able to apply, revenue of 1 million or less. Can I use a business builder grant to improve farming operations like planting and cultivating? The answer there is no. Project activities and expenses must be used for post-harvest only. So like I said, after the tomato is picked, after the carrot is taken from the ground, after the milk is in the tank, or I guess maybe before the milk is in the tank if you need extra storage. But things after something is harvested, we can help with. Can I receive an upfront payment for the award? The answer here is tricky. The center's default method for payment is reimbursement. So generally, we are having subawardees pay for what they need, all of their expenses from the grant, and then they turn in their receipts, invoices, timesheets to us, and we reimburse. We are able to facilitate advanced payments on a case-by-case basis. So if your organization or your business is interested in advanced payments, you'll put that on your application and we will have further discussion. The real limit for this is just capacity for our grant administration. So that's me. And the reason we can't do more advanced payments is because we've got a lot of awards to be doing in this round. What are some examples of items and activities that are eligible for funding? So, under special use equipment, we have things like wash and pack stations, refrigerated vans, food safety upgrades, cold storage units and ice machines, grading equipment, hoppers and hoists. So anything, like I said, post-harvest, any equipment that's going to add value or help you with storage, help you distribute, help you market, that equipment is allowable. And same to go with services. So any business development, business strategy development, supply chain analysis, risk assessment, food safety training, value chain coordination, market analysis, product development, including staff time. So like I said earlier, the example I gave with the new food safety equipment, if your staff needs to be trained on that equipment, you can put in personnel time in your budget. So yes, so labor for these projects is eligible. And that goes for operators too, business owners too. So not just staff, but you're an employee yourself. What are some examples of businesses that are eligible for this funding? So not just things that you can do, but who can apply. This includes obviously producers, farmers, ranchers, fisheries, wild caught fisheries, aquaculture, businesses, and then processors, distributors, aggregators, retail outlets, including grocery stores and restaurants, institutions, nonprofits, cooperatives, anyone that is marketing, distributing, selling food in the Northeast is able to apply. And I think that's our last question. So I'm gonna stop sharing. If anyone wants to come off camera and ask a question, so I'm not the only one talking, that is absolutely wanted. You can do that. But I'm gonna start going through Great questions here. I'm going to start going through from the top. And thanks, Chris. It looks like you've replied to a few, so this is good. If your question has been replied to by Chris, I'm going to skip it, but if you feel like you need more information, feel free to let us know. I see Melissa's hand up. I'm gonna do a couple questions, try to get through some real quick, and then I'll get to the hands. So someone's asking for track one, does it only cover equipment identified as costs over $5,000, or does it cover small pieces of equipment as well? It does cover small pieces of equipment. So this information from USDA, their definition of equipment is things over tangible items over $5,000. This award funding can include supplies too. So that's materials and supplies. Supplies are anything under $5,000. So yes, it will cover small pieces of equipment as well. Yes, track 3 also can include equipment as well as staff time. We'll do one more question before turning it over to the hands. Can you apply for a value added grant along with yours? They would overlap because I may not get yours or value added. Also, if I received a value added grant a couple of years ago, can I still apply for track 1 for equipment and track 3 if it was based on the same products? This is a little bit of a tricky situation. We can fund projects that are already funded by other programs, but we can't fund the same activities or equipment. So you cannot apply for this grant if you have already applied for another grant doing the same things. You can apply for both, like complementing each other, but not for the exact same things. And yes, if you received a value added grant a couple of years ago, you can still apply for track 1 for equipment. Yes, and if you received a grant, you can still apply. If you were funded for the grant, you would not be able to apply for the same things that you got from that grant. But if it's in conjunction in like complementary funds, activities, equipment, you can. And a note there to say, we do have a question on the application about previous federal funding. And we are prioritizing businesses that have not received federal funding. That doesn't mean that if you have received, and it's a certain amount, it's not at the top of my head right now, but if you have received over that amount, you are still eligible and still can receive this award. We just have some evaluation things in place to make sure that there are businesses that have not received up to that amount from federal funding to get awards. Yes, commercial kitchens are eligible. Installing a commercial kitchen to expand your products, yes, absolutely. I'm gonna go with the hand that I saw first. Melissa, would you like to come off mute and ask your question?
Hi, this is actually Jesse. I'm using Melissa's
Oh,
computer. Melissa's right here. I'm the farm manager at an urban farm in Brooklyn, New York. Oh, and you can't see me. Oh, there you go. Hi, my name is Jesse. I'm the farm manager of an urban farm in Brooklyn, New York, and we're applying for this grant to do a variety of things. We want to build a walk-in within an existing building. Would that qualify?
yes.
And
And
oh yeah.
yeah, that brings up a great point. Again, no ground moving and no building, but if you already have the building, we can fund you to put any cooling equipment, walk-in cooler in. Yeah.
So, and then we want to fund a bunch of other like harvest equipment like sinks and root vegetable washing. And then the other question that we had was, can we put supplies for our farmers market as well, like tables and canopies and such?
Yes. So washing anything like a wash and pack station, yes, that is allowable. It's after the thing has been picked and you're like making it better for a market. And Yes, farmers market equipment. The only reason I'm sort of hesitating is because that would technically be general purpose equipment. But if it's for the purposes of this award, that is eligible. Yes.
Is there a way to phrase that on the application?
I would just be very clear about what you're using it for.
Okay, that we're using it for a farmer's market.
Yes.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Okay.
Lisa, you're up next in the line.
Hi there. I I work for an organization and we just went over 1 million in revenue last year. And a lot of that was because of federal funds. We don't, this year is going to look very different. So I was wondering if we were eligible. We were thinking of doing, we have very distinct programs. And could we look at just the program budget rather than the
Yes.
whole? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Do you
And
need more
just,
information than a yes?
yeah, please expand
Yeah.
on that.
So we have decided what type of organization are you?
It's the Food Shed Alliance,
Okay.
and we're in northern New Jersey.
So
We
you're a
support
nonprofit.
sustainable. We are a nonprofit, yeah.
Okay. So for nonprofits, we understand that there are like parent organizations and a lot of different things that happen within that sort of field. And so we have made the decision based off of conversations from last informational session that yes, you can use program budget if the funding is not going to affect any other part of your program or of your organization. Yes, you can use your program budget as the budget that you're applying to this grant with.
Okay, perfect. That's very
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you covered this. I jumped in a couple minutes late. Is this program affected by the hysteria that's happening in the
Good
bigger
question.
world?
And
Yeah,
Jade, I'll go ahead and jump in on that one. Because I've been responding to a couple questions there. So at this point in time, the grant's continuing to proceed as normal. The program itself is considered, we have, the grant is obligated. And so it has been, so that's the first term. So it is obligated for us. The difference then becomes this is a discretionary spend versus authorized through the Farm Bill. So authorized programs are evaluated slightly differently than discretionary. This is a discretionary program, but at this point in time, USDA has continued to give us indications and continue to communicate with us that all funding is continuing at this point in time. Now, with any USDA program, regardless of if it's a Regional Food Business Center or any grant program, there is always a clause within any cooperative agreement or grant that says there could be a termination notice with appropriate words or with appropriate notification. So that is something that's even within authorized programs, that is potential. But right now we are continuing to proceed. We do the funds from USDA do not just sit in our bank account. We request reimbursements from USDA on a monthly basis. We have not had any issues to date in terms of receiving those reimbursements. But we are in constant contact with USDA about that. So regardless of, I'll say the goings on of current situations, we do anticipate that continued communication, and we expect to be able to provide continued access to information.
Yeah,
That's
because
the thing that I can give you right now, Lisa.
well, that's more than we're getting from a lot of other program people. I think what we're all concerned about is we're going to lay out the money and not get reimbursed. And I'm sure you're concerned about that too. Well, you don't, yeah,
Well,
it's a problem.
Well, there certainly is, and that's where as we look at this, right, we apply for various grants, and so we're in the same boat as a grant writing organization to apply for other things. in terms of time, opportunity costs and things like that right now, because we don't know. But if we know that we have expenses that are coming in, we're reimbursing those very, very quickly. So it's not, how can I say this right? If you spend something this month and you put a reimbursement in at the end of the month, typically within 2 to 3 weeks, you're being reimbursed by us for that. So right now it's instead of 2 to 3 weeks, it may be 3 to 4, but we've been able to continue to maintain that. Will that change over time? I can't say I wish I had a crystal ball that could say what was going to happen, but also the awards for this will be announced in July. So hopefully by July, we will have much more clarity. And if something changes, we will be communicating very, very quickly throughout the process.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry, I was the one that you were chatting.
Oh, thanks, Carolyn. Yes.
Hi, can I just follow up with that? Sorry, 1 second. So the reimbursement is as you incur expenses. It's not just one lump reimbursement at the end of a project. Okay, okay. I work with farmers. I'm a county ag development specialist, and there has been some other grant programs that are not being honored because it was this one lump sum reimbursement at the end. And so then we have farmers that are out like $50,000. And so there's a lot of uneasiness around reimbursement grants right now, which again, hoping in July and August, things will be different. But I just was trying to really understand, like, how does the money work? Because that's a huge thing for folks, even thinking about applying, is whether they can take that risk. So thank you.
And that's where, once the awards are provided, there's a system. So the Flex system that you use for the application actually is where you'd be submitting your updates and reimbursements and such.
Okay.
And so there will be more along that, but yes, we can do it more frequently than just a lump sum at the end.
Yeah.
Will
Okay.
it be after every single expenses incurred? No, it would be on a call it monthly or every other month or whatever that looks like for that project. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions there? Cool. Thanks for the opportunity to address sort of the elephant in the room. I will keep going down the line. Melissa, not Melissa, your hand. I don't know if it ever came down, but if you have another question.
Sorry, I need to take it down. My bad.
Oh, okay. Sonia.
Good morning. We have a small family farm in Massachusetts, and I have 2 questions. And so you were talking about the $350,000 revenue. And then when the nonprofit asked the question, so we do Christmas tree sales in November, December. They're purchased. We don't grow them. If that amount of money puts us over the $350,000 level, would we still be eligible?
You absolutely would be eligible for track 3. In our conversation, we were only considering nonprofits as that like exception to do program versus organizational income. So that's my answer for now. I'm gonna drop my email in the chat for if there are any like lingering questions, feel free to shoot me an email and a lot of this has to go back up to USDA, or like if I don't know a question, I can get, or if I don't know an answer, I can get an answer. So I'm gonna drop my email in the chat. Sonia, if you could email me, that would be fantastic.
Okay, and then my second question, and it's actually in the written comments, but since I'm on, so how about the purchase of a golf cart? So our fields are a distance from where our packing rooms are. So to transport the picked vegetables from the field to the packing room, is that something that would be authorized?
Can you also include that in your email? My my instinct is to say that seems like too general of an equipment. But I will just have to check.
Okay. Did you have anything else? All right, thank you.
Cool. Thank you for the question. Ralph.
There it is. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Good. So I'm an oyster farmer out here on the Great South Bay in Long Island. And I've ran like three oyster fests. You know, on the North Shore of Long Island, there's Oyster Bay Oyster Fest. They go through about 200,000 people in a weekend. I want to develop the South Shore Oyster Fest.
Mm.
We've got about 20 farmers out on the Great South Bay. So my question is, what track would I fall into? You know, the experience I had with the three other Oyster Fests that I ran was the overhead expense of getting a refrigerated truck, getting the tents, and all this equipment that when you know, broke it down during at the end of the day, it wasn't a profitable experience. So my idea is to ask for a delivery truck, right? A refrigerated delivery truck that has standby refrigeration. It could be used for the Oyster Fest and it could be used for delivering my oysters to market. And a concession trailer where I have the sink, I have the hot water heater, you know, it meets code for Suffolk County Health Department, right? And then a marketing, a website, you know, South Shore Oyster Fest, Great South Bay Oyster Fest, you know, I imagine there would be maybe 4 of them ran a year.
Mhm.
There's only 20 farmers, 25 farmers on the Great South Bay. I imagine that they would participate like they have in the past. So this adds up to over $50,000, but I think I could pull it off for less than $100,000.
Mhm.
Do I qualify for track 3?
With the information that I have, that seems like a market expansion project. And I would consider it honestly like you were like expanding to a new farmer's market. Like if it's
Yeah.
I don't think that we can't fund like event fees
No.
or marketing for the event,
Yep.
but if someone needed more equipment to be able to have a booth at a farmer's market,
Yep.
this all would be eligible. So
Yeah.
yep.
The other key, you mentioned farmers market. There is a liquor license for a roadside farmers market that you can sell bottled wine from local wineries within a 20-mile radius. You know, that would bring in that element, you know, to the Oyster Fest. And I just mentioned that because I want to give you an idea as to where this is going.
Mm.
And then, you know, this pedals back to what you were discussing earlier about, can the grant be pulled? You know,
Mm.
like this is specialized equipment. You know, the refrigerated truck that I have my eye on is like Meals on Wheels, right?
Mhm.
It's got to be ordered and custom put together.
Yeah.
And the concession trailer would be set up to, you know, service a high volume of people.
Mhm.
So my concern is I lay out, let's say, the $100,000, right? And it's pre-ordered, so a down payment has to be made. They're building it in Illinois or wherever they're building it,
Mhm.
and the grant gets pulled. I mean, I
Yeah.
know we got to wait. You said you got to wait further down the line, but
Yeah.
there's no checks and balances against taking that risk from, do
Yeah.
I understand
Yeah.
that correctly?
Yep. Yeah. I think
Okay.
we are operating business as usual until we until any like USDA
Yep.
actions or suggest otherwise. And so yeah, I would say that that's a risk that we
I
all
understand.
have to assess.
And these, I'm obtaining quotes for these specialized pieces of equipment. Of
Yes,
course, they,
so that I think I saw a couple questions about quotes. Quotes are not required, but if you look at the rubric, there is a section on project readiness, and a quote I'm sure would give you lots of points there. I won't be serving as an external reviewer, but I will say, even though a quote isn't required, that will show that you've done the work to like,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
So it's a track 3 application for me.
yes.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks for the question.
Okay, bye.
I'm gonna do a quick go through 5 more. I'm sorry, I know that I see a lot of hands up. But I also will say I'm willing to stay on later if I don't get to everyone's questions. So okay. Solar and energy audits. So we will not be funding solar panels. But if you can make an argument that an energy audit would increase or like get you to a new market, add value to your products, then that is eligible. Does that answer your question, Amy? Did you have another one? I know your hand's up, so sorry, cutting in line.
No, thank you. That answers my question. And I had a couple more questions. So I'm working with a farm that does livestock processing. They have a USDA processing facility and they want to buy a piece of equipment. So I know just offend the vegetarians. At what point is an animal in that process considered post-harvesting? Like once it's been killed, or
We have said so, and that is animal processing is tricky. Because it's like when is it harvested? So my verbiage has been when a hoof meets a trailer. But it seems like not your farm, but the person that you're working with is processing on their own land. I would say as soon as like a hoof enters the processing barn or like exits an animal can still be alive for processing. Yeah. Does that make sense?
yes, it does. And then I know you talked about that the goals of this grant were for smaller businesses. So essentially, so the farm I'm working with, they're over $1 million a year in gross farm annual income. And they got a value-added processing grant a couple of years ago in the meat processing expansion program. Does that put them like lower down on like,
Yeah,
wouldn't say lose points, but they're not the primary.
Yeah. So there's like 2 separate things there. An income of over 1 million would make them ineligible for any of the tracks. As far as the federal funding goes, you would not lose points in the rubric. That comes from we've set aside a certain percentage of the funding to go specifically to businesses that have not been federally funded before or under the amount. I think it's 250,000. So we've set aside a couple a certain percentage of our funding, and I believe it's in the RFA. The percentage is not coming up in my head, but we've set aside a certain percentage that will be dedicated to businesses that have received under $250,000 in federal funding. And then the rest of the funding can go to anyone. So they won't lose points in the rubric, but through the process, there's priority.
They're smaller. So they're basically, because they're over $1 million, they're not eligible to apply.
Correct.
All right, 2 more quick questions. So I know you showed sort of like the objectives of your organization, but what are the specific sort of objectives or outcomes, like things that are measurable,
Yep.
for this specific grant, if you could speak to
Yeah.
that.
I'm going to drop in the chat the RFA. At the very end of the RFA, yeah, at page 9, it goes into detail about reporting and what organizations will have to. Oh, I had the chat open already. Of what businesses will have to report on, and so what we are really looking at as far as outcomes. So page 9 on the RFA will tell you more about that.
All right, great. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the chat for a couple. I lost my spot because I put the link in. Oh my goodness, so many good questions. Okay. How competitive do you anticipate the funding to be? We have $10 million to fund this round that we're using for this round. And so it really depends on how many applications we get, but that is a large chunk of money. And so that equates to, oh gosh, I don't have the math on the top of my head. See if I can pull it up. I don't know it off the top of my head, but someone can do the math. And there's, I think, up to 350 grants that will be awarded. And so we do have quite a bit of funding that we can, that we're using this round. And so depending on the amount of applicants, it could be more competitive or less competitive, but we do have quite a bit of funding. I know that doesn't answer. Sorry, Holly, but next question. Will this grant pay for labor for these projects? Yes. Any staff or contracting services you can include in your budget. Marketing. Oh, Chris answered that one. Thank you. Purchase vehicles for product delivery. Yes. So storage van or delivery vans, storage trailers, refrigerated trailers, all of that is eligible. A general purpose equipment like your regular pickup truck is not eligible. But if something is specific to delivery, that is eligible. I touched on this one. You do not need written quotes for equipment, but I think would help you a lot in the project readiness of your project section of the rubric. Is there an opportunity for startups that aren't yet profitable, but with gross revenue greater than 1 million to apply? I don't believe so. This is a question from Ruby. I think I need more information. If you want to come off mute, that's fine. Or if you want to send me an email, we can go into that further.
Hey, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, I was for an aquaculture startup company. So we are bringing in more than $1 million, but we don't make any money. In fact, we lose a lot of money. So I was just wondering if there's any opportunity there, or is the gross revenue a hard stop?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that would be a hard stop.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the question. I will say that startups are eligible. You don't have to have a history. You could have just established. As long as you have a unique entity identifier, you are able to apply. In line with labor, do you pay for workman's comp? We apply, or we can use funds for fringe benefits. And so if this is included in your fringe benefits, we can put that, you can put that in your budget. Farmers markets are absolutely eligible as long as you see the project within one of the 3 tracks. And if you have additional questions, I don't think I see Meredith's hand up, but if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out. Flower farmers are not eligible, apologies, Caroline, but only foods for human consumption. Oh yeah, Chris answered that one, thank you. Yes, so I'm working with farmers whose native language is not English. What are options for required meetings and required Cornell e-business courses to get these translated? That is a fabulous question. Thank you, Heather. You can put in your application technical assistance, like language translation services, in your budget if you need that to complete the grant. So if you have any more questions on that, feel free to reach out. But the way that I would go about that is just adding into your budget language translation services. Drilling a well for a wash and pack station eligible? No, that would be ground disturbing. Portable freezer trailers? Yes. Store frozen meat on farm? Yes, that's storage. I'm gonna go back to hands. Rodrigo.
Hi, good morning. I had a couple of questions, and some of them are just confirmation questions. So we are a craft vinegar manufacturer, and the way that the grant is set up, I assume it means food manufacturing businesses, though we've been talking a lot about farming. So I just wanted to confirm that a vinegar manufacturer that's sourcing, we source alcohol. We don't source the apple. We source the apple cider, but it's all locally grown, that those are eligible.
Yep, that
Okay.
is eligible. And I will say, I appreciate you speaking up because I know that there are some specialty foods that don't really fit into the categories that you show up here. We did have someone from the last information session say, I don't see, like, where do I put myself as a honey producer in the registration for the application? And so thank you for speaking up. We appreciate you, specialty food folks.
Okay, cool. And I did have a couple of follow-on. I'll try to make them quick. Custom equipment versus off-the-shelf equipment, is that eligible? Okay.
Yes.
Are the awards all or nothing? So we need to have some custom equipment made, and then we would attach on like storage, like stainless steel tanks and things along those lines. So if we were applying for the max grant amount, is it you then make a decision on all or nothing, or how does the grant award work?
Are you asking if we cut budgets?
Yes,
We do not.
Okay.
We take budgets as they are, and there is an opportunity after the grant is awarded to do some moving around. But we, yeah, take budgets as they are, fully.
Jade and Rodrigo, I'll build on what Jade just said. We anticipate that there'll be more than enough applications that come in for this to fill all of the current round, but know that we will have a second round of funding. Or right now we have a second round of funding that will be planned. So we have a total of, between the two rounds, we'll have a total of about $16 million that does go out for business builder awards. So this first round is 10 million. We'll have a second round of about 6 million. That will go out, call it a year from now, or so.
Cool. And the award dates, I heard a reference to July being a decision point on this. So it's not rolling in any way, but it's a firm date. Does that mean that like you can't do any spend before, like what's the timing of, because I imagine a lot of people who are on the call probably have some urgent needs for equipment. Once we apply, is stuff reimbursable if we get it? If like, what's the timing? How does this all work, given the July timeline?
So Rodrigo, from the timing perspective, the applications close, and I'll probably get it wrong, April 7th. And from there, they'll be evaluated, referred to, because USDA does have to just read through the applications moving forward. So as we go through the process, we will notify those that are awarded in that July timeframe and develop contracts and agreements with you all at that point. So if you go and spend funds in, call it May 1st, you're buying something that is something that would not be reimbursable because we have not come into an agreement with you until July, if that makes sense.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Thanks, Rodrigo. And I know we are at time, but like I said, I will stay on. If you need to get out of here and you didn't get your question answered in the chat, feel free to send an email to northeastrfbc@nasda.org or use our contact form on our website. I'm going to drop that in the chat real quick. And then, like I said, I will stay on. But thank you everyone for joining, that may or may not have to leave, but I'm here for longer. So, all right, we're gonna keep going. Let's do hands, and then I'll open the floor for if you're still on but didn't get your question answered in the chat. We did have someone that didn't know how to raise their hand. Are they still on here? Anna Hackman? If you want to come off mute.
I'm on.
Oh, hello. You got your hand raised. Amazing.
Yeah. Chris had to deal with me. He's probably like, oh my God, she can't technically figure out anything. I can grow things that I can do. Going back to the question with regards to the USDA value added, USDA value added does not give for equipment. It's all basically marketing costs and bottles and stuff like that. So the track one that I wanted to apply for is I need freaking equipment. So that would be the same item that is being funded for USDA, but in a different perspective. Does that make sense? I need equipment.
So you have applied for funding, but did not get the grant?
Oh, I did.
You did get the grant
a couple years ago.
Okay.
But that funding, but the funding for the USDA value added is simply marketing costs and like
okay.
It's all like
so
it's all like
you need equipment to complement that marketing cost.
Yes.
Then yes, you are eligible.
So, but the question to the and can you talked about each phase. Are you applying for 2 different applications at the same time if you want to do 1 and 3?
No, only one application at a time or one track at a time.
So that means I have to choose between whether I want to do equipment or, and us. Okay, that's fine.
Yes, but the track 3 does include equipment.
Oh, it does? Okay. And also when you talked about that $5,000 of equipment per item, some things are less. Like for instance, like I need like a root washing system for the ginger. That's probably going to be like $1,000, and maybe storage for putting the bottles on is maybe 500. But like altogether, this whole thing would be enough, but not separately.
Yeah. Yes, and that's sort of like a tomato is a fruit, but you wouldn't put it in a fruit salad. Like we can fund that even though technically it's not by USDA definition equipment, but it is equipment in our terms. Yes, we can fund that.
And that's where as we look at the budgets for those that are awarded, if there are questions about should this be on a supply line versus an equipment line or things like that, that's where we'll work with the awardees to help adjust those budgets so it's easy to track appropriately.
Now, the other question that I had, because I went through this with the value added, and I'm hoping everybody listens to this, things change. And you can't really always look what's going to happen 2 years down the road. You think you know, but you don't know. So I might get big enough that the equipment that I bought would be okay for maybe smaller runs, but I may have to go to co-packing. And I already know the co-packing people I would go to. So can I put those both in a track 3? Because I don't know.
I would put in your best guess of what you need. And then we'll be able to work with you if budgets change. We know that things like prices change all the time. And so we can work with you if that changes and you need to reposition yourself, as long as the goal of the grant is the same.
Right, it would be the same. The other question I had is, I know the value added grant, and when you submit for reimbursements, there's a federal form that you have to submit. And what it was explained to me with the value added is you cannot make a profit. You have to plow all that money back into your business. They don't want to see a profit. So I don't know if that's the same with this grant.
I feel like the point of this grant is to make a profit of your
I know.
business.
So you would think value added was too, but they want you to plow all that money back into.
I don't think that our reporting is as specific to say we will be tracking that.
And also when let's say I'm gonna have marketing people help me. Do you need resumes and that's the value added?
That would go back towards it's not required, but any information that you can give to reviewers to say this project is ready to go and we have the qualifications for it. But also knowing that reviewers can't like balance the information that you're giving, because if it's too much information, they might not have time to look through all of it. But I would say that like saying that you have a contractor in mind and like that they are qualified would help you on your review side.
Chris answered a question, but Chris, I apologize because I have farm brain right now. I don't know if that was a yes or no. There's Expo West, there's Food Fancy Fest, there's the Atlanta Mart for gift shows. Are those covered in, I guess it would be track 3?
I would say track 2, but it would be included in track 3. I would look at track 3 as including everything, track 1 and track 2. But yes, I would say that that's business development and that is eligible.
Okay, and that includes staying there and all that stuff.
Yes, we can cover lodging. We have a certain rate, like the government rate, that we have to keep lodging under, but that information is included in the RFA.
You mentioned also about, God, I hate when my brain does this, when it goes someplace else. Oh,
It's all good. Can we come back to you?
yes,
I'll take
yes,
another
please.
cut.
And
Yeah.
I'll put it in the chat. I apologize.
Cool. No worries. You're all
too many
good.
applicants.
Yeah. Happy to give you a couple seconds. Sarah, Cook Fair.
Hey, thanks so much for your information today. I was partially answered, but we are trying to launch a marketing campaign, and the strategy is just sort of a third of the cost, essentially. The thing that's really expensive in particular are ad buys. And I see marketing being mentioned, but it's not all that specific. And it's not real tangible equipment we're trying to buy. Would that fall under these tracks or?
Yes. So I would say that is track 2. Business development marketing is a little bit tricky just because we have to walk a fine line between a business is allowed to market a product, but not their own business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if we have like a line of products, we could market those and just make sure we have
Yes.
language around that.
Yes. And I would say that is eligible for track 2.
And Jade, even as you look at market expansion too, right? Because marketing that's in track 2 could be a part of track 3 as well, as you're looking at market expansion and such. So market expansion could include some marketing investment as you're looking at those products that you're either developing or beginning to sell as well.
Yeah, and thanks, Chris, because the other part I wanted to ask was, track 3, just because of its budget and a little bit more inclusiveness is probably more appealing, but is it more competitive given that it's open to larger businesses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. That's all.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. I'm gonna take another couple hands before I come back to you, Anna. Nancy?
There we go.
Howdy.
Go ahead, Mark.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
I got several questions. We have multiple products going, and can we purchase stuff for each different operation, like a dehydrator for the mushrooms, wash pack for the vegetable garden, and a chicken plucker for the meat end of it?
Yes.
That's
So
acceptable?
yes. Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna give more information, but yes, absolutely. Funds can be used for more than one project. This seems like expanding your business. You don't have to do track 3. I think it would be perfectly acceptable for track 1, but yeah, yep.
Okay. Also, through the farmland finder,
New York Farmland Finder, if you're familiar with.
we connected with a chef that wants to come and work on the farm, and he does value added. Can we buy stuff for the commercial kitchen for him
He'll be a
to
lead-
lease as
he'll
part
lead,
of the
yeah.
operation?
Hi, honey. So are we
Yes.
gonna eat lunch together?
Yes. Commercial kitchen equipment is eligible. And I would say some of that the chef's time is also eligible.
Okay. Also, Nancy and I have bits and pieces of the maple syrup operation. We're lacking some. Now, the buckets and spiles and stuff would be pre-harvest.
Yes.
Is the evaporator and bottling and all that post-harvest?
When do you draw the line, I guess, is once it comes out of the tree and in the bucket? Or after
True.
it's boiled down to serve?
I would say mid bucket. I don't know. I don't know too much about maple harvesting, but I would say like then this is funny because it's just like the cow, but like after you've taken the bucket into the place that it will be processed.
Okay, all right. We were thinking along the lines of the honey that you talked about last week and thinking, okay, where does this line get drawn? So,
Yeah.
all right.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question. Dan?
Hi, my name's Dan, and I'm up here on the Maine coast.
So
I
not
work
like
with
the small,
business
the
development
startup
centers,
business where it had.
and I work with a lot of commercial fishermen, lobster fishermen, scallop fishermen, so forth. They do use a lot of equipment post-harvest and prior to harvest, and so some of them have asked questions about the boat trailer, the boat, the harvesting equipment that's on the boat itself. It's used through the whole process. What would your guidance be on that?
Yeah, and that's another one of the tricky ones. I would say so my verbiage has been like from the landing. But if there are things on the boat that are considered processing, that add value beyond taking the fish off the hook, I would say that's eligible. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I think so.
Things that might not be eligible, like on the boat, that would maybe be considered harvest are like, I would say that storage on a boat is not eligible.
Okay.
But anything else that like adds value to the product. And I feel like you could even probably make an argument for storage, but that might be a reach.
Okay. All right. Well, that's helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question. All right, Anna, we'll go back to you.
Oh, busy putting your name in my comments. One of the people asked this question and it hasn't been answered, and I had the same question. Like getting a specialist that helps you with like Amazon and Google Ads and things like that, which is way out of my bailiwick. Is that considered a market expansion? Which
Yes.
Okay, and I'm gonna email you separately about that because there's like, I don't know what the USDA with the value added considers market expansion versus the O1, which I don't want to bore everybody with. Okay, so that is included. And does the actual ad cost included as well?
Yes, as long as you are advertising a product or a line of product and not your business.
That is my business. Um, okay. Okay, that was my question.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to send an email. Happy to jump on a call to talk through further.
Okay.
Carol?
Hi. I produce an alcohol infused fudge and we use over 50% New York ingredients from the milk to the spirits or the wine. And we're using a co-packer. We had bought a machine and installed in their facility, and we're looking to expand to a larger production. If I applied for the grant and was successful and bought the equipment, can I put it in my co-packer's facility or a rented facility?
Yes. I think that it would be helpful to address that in your application and say like, this is my plan. I think that would speak to project readiness and say like, I do have the space. I have a contract or like an agreement with this co-packing facility. Yeah.
Okay, and we're just increasing the size of the equipment that we have now, so
Yep.
making it clear.
And rental of space within that co-packing facility is eligible.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Thank you.
Dan, did you still have a question? Your hand's still up, but it just might be lingering. Go ahead to Lauren. Going once. Okay, Mark.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, mine's real quick. I sent in an application, and when I check on your guys' website, it doesn't appear to be there anymore. I got a confirmation number. I just want to make sure it went through.
Can you repeat that? Sorry. There was information on the website.
No, I already applied to the web on your website. I sent in the application.
Ah, amazing. Wow. This is
And it was
you just want to
under
confirm?
right, it was under review, but it's no longer there.
Okay.
So I just want to confirm you guys got it.
What's your business called?
Delaney, what'd I put it under? Delaney Family Farm.
Yep, you are here and you're in my queue for compliance review. So you are good to go.
Sure. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks for the question. Ralph, back to you.
So, I'm hanging in because you pick up a lot of information from other people's questions. So I'm
Yeah,
an
I think
oyster
that's
farmer. Yep. I'm an oyster farmer. Most of, my boat stays in the water most of the time. There are times that it has to come out for maintenance. And if I happen to lose my docking lease, I would have to take that boat in and out of the water on a daily basis, drop it in when I want to go harvest, pull it out. So the question is a boat trailer considered a specialized piece of equipment? What would happen is I would launch the boat, I would go harvest my oysters, come back to the boat ramp, load it up on my trailer, and take it back to my barn.
I think that is a harvest activity and would not be eligible and is also sort of general equipment. So
I thought like maybe it's like a pickup truck, but
yeah,
it is. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I am gonna get to Maureen in just a second, but wanted to address Lindsay's question in the chat. Water storage post-harvest being held on farm before they go to market. I think that would be storage. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know too much about oyster harvesting. I know that oysters taste really good. But that to me is storage, and yes would be eligible. And then the UIN, unique entity identifier, is different from a company's EIN, but if you go on to sam.gov, you can use your EIN to generate your UEI. So it's helpful for you already to have an EIN because it's kind of same. I'm gonna call on Maureen if they're still around.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, great. So I heard some people mentioning profitability. So my question is, if we have sales, we're in business, but we're not yet turning a profit because we have to plow everything back into building the farm up. So do we still qualify to apply, or do you have to be clearing a profit in order to apply?
You do not have to be clearing a profit. The only number we're worried about is income, revenue, gross revenue.
Okay, and one quick follow-up. You just mentioned the unique identity identifier. So I have a SAM number. So I should get my UEI generated by that system. Is that correct?
It was just recently kind of switched. Your SAM number may be the same as your UEI. But I would go into sam.gov and check entity status.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Give a second again for Lauren, maybe, if she didn't hear me say her name. I'll open up the floor to anyone with questions. Feel free to drop it in the chat. Now, I know that I kind of skipped over some questions, but I can go. Meredith has questions for farmers market expansion. Tell me more, Meredith.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So we're in Rhode Island and we have, I run the Tiverton Farmers Market. We're 5 years old. We are a state nonprofit working on our federal, and we're a full year market, and we're going to be starting a second 11-week market in the summer in the next town over at Sakonnet Vineyards. So I need staff, I need some storage, design services, some basic kitchen, and we hope to possibly next year, 2026, is acquire a third market in another town. So my head's about to explode, and I'm not great with grants because I've only done a couple. You said we couldn't specifically market the market, but we do like 12 specialty events. We do a strawberry shortcake social where we go and pick, and it's all volunteers, 150 pounds of strawberries, and we sell 400 bowls of strawberry shortcake in June. And then we do a garlic roast in October. And then the vineyard has inquired about doing a harvest market at their harvest. We did one a couple years ago in the local town, and we had 6,000 people go through. So it was a little nuts. Would I qualify for track 2?
Yes. I would say if, as far as the like equipment and marketing, I would say that if you can get into that like track 3 budget amount, that would be your best bet. Wow, I need to, you said you're in Rhode Island? I've got to come for that strawberry
Oh yeah.
festival and the garlic roast. Okay. But yeah, the marketing is tricky. I would have to maybe look up about event specific marketing. And so if you want to send me an email, I can look further into that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, we had some questions in the chat. Let me get those. Just gonna sit here and stare at you guys. Upgrading electrical systems to have larger capacity. Yes. If it's not ground disturbing or building. And if you make an argument that it's expanding your like storage, processing, distribution, market expansion. Yes. Is drilling a well for a wash and pack station eligible? Yes, no, it's not eligible. It is considered moving dirt. Yeah, because you have to dig. Is post-harvest equipment include taking herbs off their leaves after they've been dried or taking them off fresh? Because it's like, yeah, this is not harvesting. This is post-harvest. That's processing to me. You've already harvested the herb, and then by taking the leaves off, you're processing it. Angela asks if we can spend money before grant approval and get reimbursed. No, no project activities or expenses can start before the grant period starts. Any other questions? Oh. Upgrading electrical systems on a commercial fishing vessel to allow for increased crew members. That's harvest, I think. Oh, yes. I can't tell who's
This is
asking.
Lisa.
Oh, hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. So I'm concerned about the reimbursement with the grant funds. We currently have a grant that's frozen in time and a USDA grant. So I wanted to know, is there a possibility that it doesn't have to be reimbursable?
So Lauren, this grant is based on a reimbursement basis. There are very few instances where we will do small advances, but we will not do any advance for the full grant amount. It is based on a reimbursement status.
Okay. And do you guys have any knowledge about what is happening to the USDA grants that are frozen?
Outside of this grant and the others that we have direct knowledge of, we do not have any inherent knowledge of other grants or other programs, and what their status or their review period looks like.
Okay. And then can we use the funds for like structural work to make an energy efficient vestibule to our greenhouse?
That seems like harvest. That seems like pre-harvest.
And so that's yes or no?
Oh, so that's ineligible. Pre-harvest is ineligible. Not allowable.
Not allowed. But a commercial kitchen would be eligible.
Yes, because you've already harvested the thing and you're processing it.
Okay.
The product, the produce. Yeah.
And can you apply for like 2 unconnected projects? So suppose like you want commercial kitchen and then you want to get some grow lights. Can you do 2 different things?
Grow lights would count.
Yeah, so yes, you can apply for 2 different projects, but I will say grow lights are pre-harvest and so are not allowable.
Yeah. But you could apply for, you can't think of something that would be unconnected.
Yeah.
Two
So yeah,
unconnected
you can apply
things.
for kitchen appliances or like processing equipment and a delivery truck, a delivery van.
Okay. And what is the maximum amount a farm can apply for?
And the maximum amount is $100,000, but it's different for each track. But overall for the program, no business can receive more than $100,000 from any regional food business center.
Would it pay for example, the plumber to hook up the commercial kitchen sinks?
Yes, installation can be included as long as it's not ground moving and you're not building any like addition onto the building.
Um, can we buy used equipment or does it have to all be new
Nope, it can be used.
to be used? Okay, and then I'm just producing the receipt for the used equipment.
Yeah, quotes are not required, but it would be helpful in review as far as like project readiness goes.
Great. I think that's it for now.
Cool. Thanks for the questions.
And, thank you. I might think of one later.
Yeah, feel free to send us an email or use the contact page on the website.
I do have one question. How many grant awards are you guys giving?
I tried to do the math earlier off the top of my head. I think we have up to 350.
Yeah,
Chris is shaking his.
yeah, between 300 and 350. Again, it depends on the values, right? Within track 3, if there are more that come in towards the lower end, we may be able to fund more. But in total, it's $10 million between the 3 tracks.
Is preference given to farms? Is preference given to nonprofits? Is preference given to for-profits?
No preference given. The only thing we are prioritizing is applications that have not received federal funding in the past. And that doesn't mean that people that have received over that amount are not eligible. We just have like a certain bucket that we're spending first for businesses that have received over $250,000 in federal funding.
Only over 250,000. If it's under, that doesn't.
If it's under, then you would be considered part of the priority bucket.
Okay. Meaning that we would be on the same playing field as someone who has not received a grant.
Correct.
And then, so we have this grant that we've received. It is under 250,000, but it's frozen. And I don't know if we'll ever get it. So I don't know if any of the questions are like, have you received a federal grant? So I technically have a signed contract, but I don't have the money. So,
yeah, I think there's a question on the application that is, have you received federal funding? You would say yes. And then there's a question that says, is it over $250,000? And you would say no. So there won't be any questions and nothing is weighted as far as status of the grant.
right. All right. Yeah. I mean, it's just we haven't received the funding. Just received a piece of paper. So,
right. Yeah.
Odd circumstances.
Yep.
But so, okay. All right. Well, thank you. And we appreciate giving
thanks
us
for
the
the question.
opportunity to apply.
Yep. Thank you. We've got a question from Lindsay about a mobile raw bar for oysters. I could see it being either track 1 or track 3, depending on what your budget is or what it needs to be. Kelly asks, we are a farm and want to build a commercial kitchen to produce prepared foods to sell made from vegetables we sell, but also would like to get bread ovens that bread to the soup as well. Yes, this is eligible. This is all processing and yep, would be excuse me, seems like a track 1 project. Anna asks if federal funding didn't cover those line items, equipment, I would say no federal funding. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna call on Julie. Julie, you have your hand raised? You have a question? Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a small cheese maker in Vermont, and I would be putting in for a hybrid vat, which the vat itself would be $50,000. That's kind of the end of the track 1. Is that still a good place to put me?
If you can get it in at 50,000, yes. Otherwise, I would say apply for track 3. And if you need any like marketing or business services outside of that, to get to the next step, I would add that in too, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Oh, or is there, I haven't looked at the RFA yet, but is there a place for a, I mean, if I could pick up the difference because I don't think it would go over the 50 very much.
Oh yeah. I think that, yeah, you could put in the budget like you would like up to $50,000, and then like that you would cover the rest. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then one other question, because that would just be one, the grant that I'm getting now, you show stages of having finished, moved along your project, but this would just be one, one interaction. So how would that be reimbursed? Would it be broken up
No,
into?
as soon as you've spent the money, we can reimburse you. So, if you spend all of the money at once, we would reimburse you for all of the money at once.
Like in the first, like the month after I spent it? It would be,
Yep.
oh, okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And sorry, Anna, I see you following up about me not answering. I thought that this was a comment on the previous conversation. If federal funding didn't cover line items, I would say because it's under $250,000, you would still be in the priority bucket. And there is no spot to explain anything beyond that. So you would say, yes, I have received federal funding. No, it was below $250,000. Two-parter. Okay, I'm gonna give a couple more minutes just for lingering questions, and I'll hop off here at 12:10. Oh, Ralph, I see your hand, but I'm gonna say, if anyone needs to drop off, go ahead. Great to talk to you all today. Feel free to send me an email, or send an email to the contact form on our website for more information. But I'll go to Ralph.
Yes. So federal funding, if you receive disaster relief, for federal funding, how do I communicate that yes, I did, or
So
I think you understand.
Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but the federal funding question that we're looking for is more specific to grants versus disaster relief or something of that
Yes.
sort. So that I know that can be a small distinction because sometimes the disaster relief comes in forms of grants and things like that. So if there are specific questions, please let us know probably offline what that circumstance is. But typically I would say in 90% of the cases, 95% of the cases, disaster relief would not count in that bucket.
Yep. Yep. I just had to look up the wording here, but on the application it says the question is, have you ever in the past received direct federal grant funding from USDA? So I have misspoke. From USDA specifically, excluding loans, disaster relief, or pandemic related payments. So it has to be funding from the USDA and excludes loans, disaster relief, or pandemic related payments.
No. Yeah, I get
Amazing.
it.
Yep.
That does it. Thank you.
Yep. Lauren, did you still have or did you say, I think you said a different name, but Lauren has her hand up. Do you have any other questions? All right. Thank you all for joining today. Like I said, send me an email, fill out the contact form on our website. But I had a great time answering questions with you all today. This is sort of like a test. It gives me more information too. So thank you all, and hope to see your application in my queue. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you.